All right, my name is Christian Furman. I was here from 2015 to 2016, about 11 months in the program. I spent my entire freshman year in high school here.
Wow. Christian, tell us where you're from originally and what brought you to Youth for Tomorrow. What were the circumstances that you
I
were under?
I am from Austin, Texas originally. The circumstances leading up to me joining the program was that I was coming from a very chaotic home life. And I say chaotic because I never really had much of a home at all. I was living with my mother and two sisters in Texas, and my home was anything from a spare room in a person's small apartment, to a homeless shelter, to a Honda Civic. I never had a stable living environment. I remember walking the streets a lot because we didn't have a car to get anywhere. I slept on bus benches, and I quickly realized that with the anger I felt with my current situation and the fact that it didn't have any promise of changing for the better anytime soon, I needed to get out. So I gave my grandmother, who's my father's mother, a call, and we had never even met prior to this phone call. And I said, hey, listen, I need to get out of here. I'm not going to survive in this situation. You're the only one, like, I have nothing else. You're it. And she said, I'm happy to be it. Where are you? So she put me on a plane, and I came to Virginia. And then I went to Tennessee to try and live with my dad, because my dad wasn't in the picture for the first 14 years of my life. So I had always wanted the chance to live with him. Problem was, he was drinking heavily at the time, and I was a very emotionally troubled 14-year-old kid, and the situation just didn't work out. We butt heads almost every day. So I quickly had to move from that environment as well. Came back to Virginia, and it was apparent that my emotional issues were not going to allow me to live a healthy life. So that's when my dad and my grandmother contacted Dr. Jones. My dad was actually one of the original 16 Joe Gibbs kids in the program.
Was he really?
When the program first opened, that's how they knew Dr.
In the
Jones.
late 80s?
Yes, sir. He had, in that courtyard they have in front of the main building, my dad has a brick there, David Brennan Hunt. So that they knew Dr. Jones, and they contacted him and said, this kid needs help. And he welcomed me with open arms, and yeah, when I was 14, I joined the program, and I was living in the Courage House.
Wow, that is incredible. Did you have expectations when you came here by virtue of your dad having been here? And give us an idea of what your first impressions were.
Well, if I'm being completely honest, I didn't want to be here. So my expectations were that it was going to be very difficult because, I felt that I wanted to get away from my mother to start a new life, and I wanted to, I guess I wanted to be the man. I wanted to show that I could live this new life and that I was ready to move on. But it quickly became apparent that emotionally I was not healed enough to do that. And I was very resistant for the first 4 or 5 months that I was here. I was very resistant to authority. I pushed back a lot. I wasn't really willing to work with anybody. I was just very stubborn and rebellious and headstrong. But it came to a point where about halfway through my stay here at the program, it really dawned on me the opportunity I had here to emotionally better myself. And it was a point of growth for me in my life, because until that point, I had never been able to surrender trust to any authority, because all the authority figures in my life in Texas didn't really have my best interests in mind, because I was never getting my needs met. So that was a major turning point in my life where, for the first time, I surrendered my trust and my love to authority figures, and it turned out to be a point of healing for me. So it was a milestone in me growing up.
Was there a moment that this epiphany happened? Was it a gradual understanding of what this place could mean to you? Can you think back to a moment?
It was very sudden. It was very sudden. I mean, like I said, I was very stubborn. So I had to learn and adapt very quickly in order to kind of see, okay, this is what I need to do to get back on track. And it was a moment, I was in the conference room in the boys' wing of the building, which is the girls' wing now, I think. And I was with my counselor, Miss Tiara Reddick, and Miss April Edwards, and my grandmother was over the phone. And we just got into a huge argument over the phone. And I went back to the Courage House, and I was just lying in bed in my room, and I just couldn't help but thinking, I've been here before. I've been here where I let my anger get the best of me, and anytime I have any chance to move forward, I take 2 steps back because I'm just hanging on to all this negative energy from my past. And it was an epiphany at that moment. It's like, okay, these people are here saying they want to help me, they want to help me grow. I don't really have any other options at this point because clearly what I got going on doesn't work. Where I am, I obviously can't do this on my own. So we set up another telemeeting with my grandmother, and I remember sitting in the conference room again, and I just said, and my Miss Tiara Reddick, my counselor's like, do you have something you want to say to your grandmother? And I said, yes. I said, Nana, I'm sorry for the way I spoke to you. I realize that you're here to help me, and I just want you to know that I trust you. And she started crying over the phone. She started crying over speakerphone. And Miss Tiara Reddick was like, Miss Hunt, do you hear that? She says, yes, I do. And it was at that moment from then on, I started working the phase system in the program, quickly moved up phase by phase, and about 6 months later, shortly after I was 15, the summer before my sophomore year of high school, I graduated the program. So.
And I know from having spoken to you, you went on to a rather distinguished academic career in high school, a 4.0. Yes. You have college aspirations now. Yes. And so when you look back, what was it about this place? What was missing for you? You kind of spoke on it. I'd like to talk about it a little bit more. The people here, your counselor, April Edwards, they provided you what? What did you need?
I needed love, and I needed tough love because and I don't want to make it seem like nobody else loved me in my life before I came here. It's just that I needed the kind of love to where I would have a point in my life where I could grow past the demons that were haunting me from my past. The only problem is that, as I said, I was so resistant to authority that I was constantly getting in my own way of that. And what the people here at YFT gave me was a sense of love and compassion for my struggles, but they didn't sugarcoat anything. They were very forthright about what I needed to do to get better, and they were very forthright in telling me when I slipped up and when I was just reverting back to the same old habits that I was trying to grow out of. So they gave me a sense of sanctuary. They gave me a place where I knew I could be taken care of, but also that if I stepped out of line, I was going to be checked. And that really is what helped me, grow and gain that sense of maturity.
When you come back here, how do you feel?
I feel they welcome me with open arms. I mean, it was a very unique situation for me to come back when I was already 18. And, I was kind of apprehensive because, I'm not a resident anymore legally. I'm an adult, but they just welcomed me back like I was family. And the love and the continuous support that I've gotten from the good folks here has really made me feel like the people here at YFT are an extension of my family.
A lot of people say that, and when you think about some of the residents that are here now, I mean, and I don't know if you saw any as you came onto campus, but I would think that you think back the age you were at the time and what these kids might be going through. I think you can relate to them, can't you?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's funny because when I first came back here a little while last year, I was talking with somebody at the chapel. It was one of the residents here. I think she was like 16. And when she started talking about the program, it's like I was seeing all the same things that I was feeling when I first came back. She was like, why do you want to be here? And I was just like, because,
Kind of sounded familiar.
Yeah,
huh?
it was like, oh my God, I remember asking that, and now I'm coming back by my own free will, and I'm more than happy to be here. So that solidified in my mind the amount of growth that I had gone through as a resident, to see what I felt at that age embodied in another person reflected back in front of me, and then to see where I'm at now. And it just made me hope the best for her. And I think the conversation went something like that. Like, look, I know you don't want to be here, but if you give them a chance, I don't think you'll regret it.
This is a Christian school. How did that impact you?
I got saved here. I was raised Christian, I guess you could say, because my mother was a believer, but I was so, I was in a lot of emotional pain before I came to YFT. And that emotional pain kind of led me to just kind of forget about any possibility of there being a God for me because I was just too angry and bitter. But I had a moment with one of the pastors here. I was struggling with an issue at the time. He said, hey, the Lord put something on my heart today. You know, is this going on with you? And I had never told him, and I had never told anybody here about what that issue was. So when he said that to me, I was just like, I was taken back. And I started cultivating a relationship with him, and I kind of regained my faith. I kind of found my God again. So after I graduated the program, I went to church with my grandmother almost every Sunday for the next 3 years that I lived with her.
Wow, it's such a great story. In conclusion, uh, what kind of sense of pride do you have in having been part of this program? And how impressed are you with the fact that this has grown beyond the campus? I don't know if you're aware of some of the services that are provided in these other offices in Northern Virginia. What are your thoughts on that?
The pride I have is that I can see that when I was at a point in my life where I thought nothing was going to help me, I can see that there were so many other of my peers my age who had the exact same situation or worse, and all of them, or most of them, kind of took the reins off and let the people here help them, and it really bettered their lives just as it bettered mine. So given the sense of hopelessness I had when I was a kid, the pride I have is in seeing that so many young men and women with that same feeling have all come here, and they've all gained that sense of security and love and trust that I did. So it's a great thing they got going on here, and I'm very glad to see it grow and to continue to thrive and be successful. And YFT will always be my family.